Hey guys, what is going on? RedMaster here, and welcome back to another episode of Cards and Castles, where today we are going to be taking a look at the latest balance hotfix posted, I believe, last night. I mean, early this morning, like very early, like probably around midnight, 1 a.m. in my time anyway. This was kind of posted as a result of a couple of issues that I think the devs seen, as you can kind of see here. Minor balance hotfix to address some of the issues from the December patch. So the full list is over on the Reddit. Of course, the link is already in your news tab. So you can go ahead and click on that, or you can check the link down below. I will be reviewing all the changes in this hotfix because there are only 5 of them. So some I will go into a bit more detail over others, simply because I feel like a few of them are okay. They don't really need that much explanation, but there are others that, you know, a lot of people have been debating about whether or not it was the right call to do. And, you know, speaking of that debating, a lot of debating has been going on about this hotfix. A lot of people, or at least people that I talked to, have been, you know, going off and saying, you know, very, very bad hotfix. Others are defending it. So there's a lot of different mixed opinions regarding this hotfix. But hopefully I'm going to give you guys my take. Hopefully show you guys what, you know, what I think and how I really feel about this hotfix. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the first change for said hotfix. Alright, so the first card that was changed was the lunging attack. It no longer gives a +3 attack buff in addition to its movement like it used to. Now instead it gives a first strike, and honestly I think this is a pretty good change. I know lunging attack, or at least this change, was probably one that stirred a lot of controversy up. If not this one, then another one we'll get to later. But honestly, in my opinion, I find that lunging attack is a bit better now. Obviously this patch, or at least this hotfix, was meant to tackle a lot of OTK and freeze decks that were going around, and I understand that lunging attack was a big sort of tool for them to utilize. Having that additional 3 attack, zooming across the board, and taking out, you know, some big target. Honestly, lunging attack is why I favor some swordsmen in my ninja decks, because if I can get that, you know, nice big swordsman cleave, like it's a 7 attack cleave that can really just mess up the board for your opponent. But now giving first strike I think is a bit more appropriate. You have a unit come out, you place a ninja attack on it, and it goes out, it takes a swing at something, and hopefully kills it, while also not really dying itself. Definitely not really viable with swordsman, in my opinion, because now swordsman's lower attack of 4 is not really complemented well. It might if you know are taking out some smaller units with it, but honestly, lunging attack, again, in my opinion, was a fine change. People were very overreactive about this, I think, people calling it a dead card. I don't really see it that way. It now really just fits more of the theme that is a, you know, lunging attack. It's not like a super strong lunging attack. It's just a lunging attack. You get rid of a target, and, you know, you don't take any damage from it because you just lunge, you took out the target, etc., etc. But gameplay-wise, certainly I would expect this to take in. I mean, the movement is nice. I personally am still going to try it out in a couple decks. Maybe swap out the swordsman, though, for a different, more beefier unit to utilize the lunging attack with. You know, it still works, I think. Again, dead's a big overreaction. I think people just have to adapt and learn how to use lunging attack more. If you are looking for movement buffs now without... I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't run lunging attack over something like Alpha Strike or Swiftness, personally. I mean, they are both good cards in their respective fields, but, you know, lunging attack does a great job, I think, in my opinion. Not trashing on Swiftness or Alpha Strike. Those cards are great in their own respective right, but I really don't think people should just put this card as a dead card just because of the slight, more thematic fit to it. Again, the whole point of lunging is, as long as you have that movement, I think, the card will still have its value. It still has its worth. The moment you, like, say if lunging attack just did first strike and +3 attack, I would then consider it to be, you know, not as effective as what it is now, because the movement was the entire purpose of the card. You were getting the card for that movement, for the lunge. So But I think I've ranted on this enough. Again, a lot of people have their own opinions on this card. Again, probably one of the most controversial changes in this hotfix. But I've said what I wanted to say, so we're going to move on right into the next change. Alright, so going ahead right down the list here, our next change is Yenneroth. Now, Yenneroth didn't really receive any revamp or, whatnot. He just received a slight tweak to his stat lines, being now a 6/8. Personally, I think this is a great change for Yenneroth. He can no longer go ahead, just be thrown out on the board, and then, just freeze everything and then go ahead and take out one of your stronger units. He can still partially do that. Again, this slightly raises the importance of cards like Blacksmith and Armory, because you want those stat buffs for when Yenneroth comes out. I mean, if you had a Blacksmith out already, Yenneroth, as you can clearly tell, doesn't really lose anything, or it kind of goes back to his old form in a sense. You now have a 7/8 Yenneroth with the complement of like maybe a Blacksmith, or a 7/9 if you got a complement of Armory or Fat Bard out. So overall, Yenneroth, again, I don't really think he's losing anything big here. People are still using him for the initiative of freezing. Sometimes people opting not to really attack with Yenneroth. So honestly, I don't expect Yenneroth to see much of a change or an impact from where he is now. Some people might not use him because of his inability to trade with things like Grendel and Minotaur, which I understand. But then again, that raises the importance of cards like Blacksmith and Armory even further. So interesting way how that works here. So Yenneroth, while being nerfed, also again raises the importance of stat buffs, which I preach all the time is the backbone, I think, of a lot of games. So, or not really a lot of games in the sense of like other video games. Like I'm talking about matches, I guess. Maybe I should have made that clear. But regardless, Yenneroth, interesting change. I'm not really hating on this one too much. Kind of simplistic and not really much to it. Just a stat change to affect the way he kind of trades now from summons. So, with that being said, I think Yenneroth, again, solid change. Alright, so the next change we'll be talking about is the Lich. Now, the Lich was a card that now has been changed to a 2/3 body rather than a 3/3. I think this ended up being a fine change to it. I know out of the 3 cards that were talked about, out of the 5 of the hotfix, Lich was probably the least of the 3 debated cards. But it was still openly debated due to the fact that Lich now no longer has that power to trade with things like Questing Knight and Miner directly from the summon. I know a lot of Viking decks use the Lich to kind of protect themselves in the early game. You could freeze off a Miner or a Questing Knight and then kill it off that same turn with the Lich. I understand that that was a decent play, but I don't think it really highlighted in the dev's opinion what Lich was supposed to be used for. Lich was a card, I think, that is meant to just be a freezing initiative. Or, I guess, that kind of makes sense, seeing as the card says initiative freeze. Well, trying to word this better. It's a card that you just kind of throw out there and hopefully stall or create some setup with. You're not really supposed to use him to kind of trade with, trade openly with a lot of things. And, the last will kind of highlights that, but people were still able to get away with trading things like, or like killing off things like the Miner and Questing Knight, I should say, not really trading. They were able to get away with that play because of how, a little extra aggressive the Lich was in terms of attack power. I think right now where he stands, his role is more defined now as sort of a card that you throw in there for stalling, for, potential lightning chain setups, for whatever else you might use freeze for. Honestly, people kind of sometimes have their own opinions on, the roles of things, but, going again, I think this was a fine change to him. I'm not going to really throw out a lot of stuff on Lich, though, because I don't really consider it a, impactful change. We'll still see him, I bet, here and there in Viking decks, but I think definitely with a more defined role, people might opt away from Lich just because they don't like that 2 attack, which I understand. I get it's poor for trying to get things off your face now, but it's kind of clearly stated here what the new role of Lich is supposed to be. So with that in mind, from a role perspective, I guess you can say it was a good change. For the aspect of combat and trading, I can kind of see, again, the negative side of things. But regardless, again, not much else to kind of really touch up on with Lich, so we're going to go ahead and move right on to our next card. Alright, now we move on to the biggest controversial change going around, at least in some of the more vocal parts of the community, and that is the Winds of the North change. Originally, this card was able to push up all units one space, so a good body block clear, chain lightning setup, etc., etc. But it has now been changed to a push all enemy units two spaces away. So sort of like an old win, or sort of like the current Wind Mage ability compacted into a spell card. Now, with this change, I think it was great for what it's now supposed to do. Um, Again, it's similar to Lich in where I feel for the people who were, using this to just kind of push things up to remove body blocks and people develop plays and strategies with it. I get that. But I think Winds of the North now is able to do a lot more for some of the incoming players into the game. When you look at it, Winds of the North was the only card that had a push-up ability, which is strange for it as a basic card. Cards which are supposed to naturally teach players how to, slowly integrate into the game and into the competitive scene, things like that. But with a push-up mechanic, it just kind of felt really awkward. And it was even stated in the Discord, Wind to the North literally had the exact effect for 3 years. It's not fine as it basically saying it wasn't fine as a basic card. This was from Vaughn himself. And basic cards are supposed to teach new players the game. That's kind of just flat out stated right there, as clear as day. So, ugh. I I understand again where people are coming from with their disdain over this change, but I think you have to look at it in a bigger picture, in a bigger sense. They're supposed to teach players how to kind of, operate in the game. Eventually, they build up their collection to some of the bigger and more complex things. That's how things go. But when you have a card like Winds of the North that is so unique in that it's the only card of its kind, and have that as a basic card, you're teaching players things that only exist in one card and not anywhere else in the game, which is definitely rough. And seeing it as how it's a basic card, you're exposing that to everyone, not just a select few. Everyone's being exposed to that, just weird, unique effect. So for what it's now supposed to do, in which it's supposed to teach players some of the basic abilities of Winds, I think it was a great change there. But then again, I also feel for the people who are using this as more competitively, in the style of like, I can remove body blocks, I can potentially set up chains, like all that stuff. I understand, and again, I sympathize with that. But overall, I think this was the right move. I think to teach players more abilities, if that makes sense. If you're trying to bring in new players, you don't want to just thrust on them a basic card that has an ability which is never seen elsewhere in the game. So again, little bit of a rant there, because again, this was the most controversial and most debated subject of the hotfix. So hopefully I'm able to kind of express my opinions. Hopefully you guys understand me. You guys don't have to agree with me. I know a lot of people out there who probably won't agree with me, which is fine. I understand that. We are all, able to have our own opinions. I was trying to get that sentence out. But, Winds of the North, I think, now better at its job, which is to introduce new players to the concept of Winds. They build up from Wind to the North, and they go into Wind, all that good stuff. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to our final change for this hotfix. Alright, and that last card that we'll be going over is the Freezing Pillar. Now, Pillar, not really much to talk about in terms of its change. Simple health reduction from a 4 to a 3. Definitely makes us better with, trying to get rid of it for things like Flame Cannon, Chain Lightning, or like the Lightning Blade Chain. Makes more sense there. And things that probably are just generally smaller than 4 attack. Things like Berserker, Miner. Those will always be able to handle Freezing Pillar now. Not really a super change, as Freezing Pillar was an on and off card, I think, in a lot of people's mind. Freeze Aura definitely now have a stronger ability going forward. But people are always, I think, opting for the Cloak of Ice rather than the Freezing Pillar. I mean, you could still use the pillar probably, you're just gonna have to use it a bit more sparingly due to its, weakness and health. It can be easily, like I said, more easily removed. That's kind of the basis of this change. Nothing really fancy there. So, not going to spend too much time on the freezing pillar. Its change is kind of a simple one, and I don't think it had that much of an impact to warrant any sort of huge debate or discussion on it. So, overall, fine change. You can easily get rid of it now, or like more easily get rid of it now, which is definitely nice because freeze aura has been pain to people lately. So. And with that being said, that's going to do it for my OTK hotfix review. Before you guys do leave, though, we want to go ahead and point out a little something to you. If you guys have noticed, your shop tab recently has been updated. There is a new pack going around, the Black Market Bundle, 10 card packs that are bonus legendary. I feel like I should just point that out to you guys. I think it's an interesting deal, especially where you can get 5 packs for this price. You can now just get one big bundle, which is, again, I think a nice little steal for those of you who are maybe looking to pick up some more cards. So just throwing that out there. But regardless, if you did like the video, be sure to leave a like, share with your friends, and comment down below your thoughts on the OTK hotfix. I know I probably sparked a lot of debate and discussion with this. Hopefully, maybe I'm just putting my opinions out there. Again, we are all open to have our own opinions. So, with that being said, while you're down there, if you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It helps show you about the channel how it's grow by clicking that subscribe button. At no additional cost to you. And visit the Reddit link linked in the description below to read up on the hotfix itself for yourself. And go over what some other people are saying in those comment threads below. So, with that being said, guys, that's going to do it for me for now. So, until next time, stay gaming. I got to get a shorter outro.